right, what in the hell does this title say about this movie? I have no clue. And maybe even after watching it, I don't know. I don't really know. But let's see. Maybe the IMDb plot can give me some clue here. Give you guys some clue. It follows a mother and two sons vacationing in Japan. Their younger son almost drowns in a lake, and soon after the accident, the parents realize that something is wrong with their boy. All right, again, okay, so you know, I have no idea what the title means. Didn't maybe it means something somewhere along the line. I don't know, but anyway, what is the film about and what is really going on here? We'll get into that here in a second. Fairly new film here. There's a little bit of a twist and turn here, I guess, in what's happening. So we'll try to keep that spoiler free for you guys. I believe this one now is on Amazon or Prime, I should say, for you guys to catch. So it is a recent film, so we'll again try to kind of keep that spoiler free. What to say here? Okay, so I guess this is for you guys that like found footage and that type of film. Most of the movie, I should say. Okay, so you do have a husband and wife here. It did say a mother and two sons are vacationing, but you do have a husband involved here, and the set of circumstances is that the husband is a military man, and he's stationed at base. He was supposed to go on vacation with them, but couldn't. So he's, still stationed, working in the military somewhere. And, she needs a much needed vacation. So she continues on to Japan with her two young boys here to have this vacation. So much of the film is seen a little bit more from the father's point of view, him doing like kind of FaceTime either with the mother or one of the sons, him sitting at a computer desk, watching them. You'll see, some of the searches he does in the computer and so forth. But much of the movie is kind of seen in a found footage way and from his point of view. Everything that he's kind of seeing and experiencing, through the film, it's mostly from his perspective and so forth. We do kind of get to see him, as he's watching it, through their cameras or so forth. So it's not that we're missing anything, but it's not maybe necessarily the other, the kind of found footage where a certain camera is following the family in a way. It is mostly kind of in that kind of way that it's, via, computers and following. And I think he also does, there's some scenes where they use a drone. He also does some like location and so forth. He has a friend that eventually he calls and goes over there, so you get to see a little bit from his phone as well. So it's not the usual like cameras following around someone there with a camera following everybody around kind of thing. But again, so for you guys that like found footage, it might be for you. If you're kind of like me, that kind of some of it works, some of it doesn't. That's kind of a warning for you if you're not really sure what this film is or if you want to watch it or not. So yeah, that's kind of the kind of set up here in a way. At the beginning, we kind of see an unfortunate situation where the wife here tries to give birth and it doesn't go so well. So it kind of sets a little tragedy to start the movie. But obviously, later on it works out. She has two sons and so forth. And obviously that gives gives them some emotional thought as the kind of film goes on. But then, on one of the first phone calls that we really see between them, once they go on vacation, is the kids kind of playing around near this lake. There's an emergency. A couple of the kids end up in the water. Obviously, one of them is their youngest son. And, it's kind of iffy. He kind of panics. They lose connection. He has to make a lot of phone calls, and you see him, making a lot of rounds and see him maybe texting through the computer or whatever, trying to figure out what is happening and so forth. And then they finally find out that the son did survive, but, he was in pretty bad shape, but he does come out of it and so forth. when he does, at first everything's fine, but then as we go, everything's not so fine. He starts acting weird and some odd behaviors. Um, every time he's, the more time he's on screen, you kind of see some weird stuff happening on screen. And, the brother who's with him there is a little bit older. Obviously, the mom is not going to really notice anything. She's just happy he's alive and whatever, and she's trying to just deal with, vacationing and being there with the kids and, doing that. And obviously trying to get over that experience of her almost losing yet another child. So she's not really going to see too much of the oddness going on. But the other brother was a little bit older, not a huge, age difference here. It's still kind of young. He is going to notice, something is a little off and so forth. So, as the dad gets kind of a little worried, so does that brother. And, sometimes they have some private conversations about what's going on, what it could be. Obviously, you're going to see him do some Google searches and so forth to see, what he's noticing. He basically does Google searches for and tries to figure out what that could mean, what could be happening to his son. Again, he really can't leave. He's not allowed to leave, and doesn't want to be court-martialed and so forth. I don't want to get too far into it. I will just say, I thought they did do a decent job of kind of, I guess, as a horror fan, you kind of look at it, you're like, oh, well, what's happening here could be one of, A, B, or C. And, I think, they do a decent job of giving you, A, B, and C. And then, kind of eventually you'll find out, which one it is. So, you can, maybe you'll know it right off the bat, maybe if not. There's only a few choices there that it could really be. I mean, in the realities of it. So, I think, they kind of give you a good little, introduction to him. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And then, they pick a direction and it's kind of that. And, like I said, the father's going to do more searching or trying to figure out what it is. The mom's kind of in denial. And obviously the older brothers is kind of in between. And like I said, he does have a friend who's eventually going to go there and try to help and kind of be a stand-in for him to figure out what is happening. I don't want to tell you exactly what's happening, and I don't want to go in and say anything toward, about the ending and what happens. It is, an interesting kind of watch because, again, you're watching it, via a computer, most of it, and the back and forth, and, him Google searching and blah, blah, blah. And then, sometimes the camera phone. So, I guess towards the end when they, pick the direction it's going to go, and obviously you need a solution to this and kind of figure it out, it is, upped a little bit, and you kind of, finally get taken into the action a bit. But, again, if you can kind of sit through somebody else sitting through and just, maneuvering at the computer and so forth, that's, a lot of the film, that's kind of up to you to decide whether that's enough action and enough interest for you. Again, if you're kind of into the found footage thing, that might help. You might be all into it and so forth. Like I said, there's a little bit of mystery going on here. He's doing some solutions. So if you're kind of into that part of it as well, that could be it. They do an okay job of kind of, bringing the drama here and there. There are some weird scenes that you're going to see. There's a scene, like I mentioned, there's a drone that's taken, that's used. The father sends the boy a drone because he likes them or sees that he's kind of found an interest in it. And they stick the mom's phone, I think it's the mom's phone, on the drone. They fly it over the water there. And then so you're seeing him see the drone kind of go over the water, and then the drone's going to kind of fail, and then you get like a semi-action scene for this movie. I mean, not a huge action scene, but at least a little bit of something. You're going to see another scene where the boy kind of pitches a fit. But, you're not gonna see a whole lot, else going on here. I think, there are some minor things, and you're going to see some things that he picks up on, which is also going to give you a clue to what's going on here. But again, from, an action and a lot of things going on here, not really. So, that's going to be dependent on you guys. I'm kind of surprised that I kind of kept my attention enough into this. I'm looking here real quick, kind of saying that, it is, just short of an hour and a half. So, I'm guessing that that's a good time period for it, because any more, and it'd be like, what the hell? And I think it moved it did move at a decent pace. They didn't, like I said, they kind of give you a hint of one thing and another thing and another thing until they kind of pick the direction they're going to go, and then you figure it out with them. But I thought they moved to it. They didn't drag it on. We got right to it, and so forth. So at least that was a good thing with that, because to watch him just sit there and Google and do FaceTime back and forth, whatever, doesn't present a whole lot, and so forth. Mine made it a little, I mean, I don't know, thing about, the filmmaking of it. Maybe it made it easier to film, maybe not. I don't know, but, him just kind of being stationary there and not doing anything, kind of probably made it a little bit easier. I don't know. But as a viewing audience, it's not, giving you, a whole lot there. And even, like I said, on the other side of it, not a huge amount of action until you get to the end. And I think, they did an okay job of making up for that. Once you see what is happening here, they do give you a pretty creepy scene or two. I'm really not sure about the ending. I see where they go and where they went with it. There are events that's going to eventually happen, with the boy and so forth. I wasn't really completely sold or liking, what happened there, and what I guess happens. I'm trying not to give it away. I don't want to give away, what is going to happen. I like that they amped it up, and you get to see obviously what is going on here, and kind of really get into more of the horror part of it. But then just kind of the way it kind of, I guess, concludes before the movie kind of officially ends, and they're going to tell you what happens. I really wasn't buying that. I didn't really like that. And, obviously, I think, there's a theme here that this is not, the first time that this happened, and they're going to kind of roll that at you as well. And, I wasn't really going for that either. So, I think at the end of the day, this one's just going to end up being a 2 pools of blood out of 5. Wasn't terrible, wasn't, extremely hard to watch, maybe not hugely entertaining until the end. If you're kind of, like I said, if you're really kind of into the found footage and you're okay watching the back and forth, the phone calls and the Google searching and the blah, 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 and you can really wait all that out until you get to maybe a little bit of more action at the end, then this might be for you, and might be okay for you. But yeah, I wasn't hugely, and I liked, again, how they kind of held back or gave you a few choices at the beginning, and then before they picked the direction of where they're going with what is really happening. But, overall, okay, I don't think it's going to rank, hugely up there with, some of the other good found footage movies that we've seen. This one is just kind of okay, and so forth. So, I guess, if they'd shown maybe a little bit more and got a little bit more into the action from the kids' point of view, and maybe some more into that, as opposed to almost being more of an explaining later on from that point of view. Maybe could have given it a little bit more. It just needed a little bit more to get into it, to get, the true horror out of the movie, to get the true scares of it, instead of waiting really till that final act to do it. So, with that, again, 2 pools of blood out of 5 for this one. So, yeah, and I still don't know what bloat means or what that has to do with it, but I'm sure if I spent some time and Googled whatever, it'd probably be right there for me. Or you guys could tell me. So, with that, horosgoyreviews.blogspot.com is where you can find all of my reviews written in video. Certainly plenty of video reviews for a while now, so you can like and subscribe and do everything else that everybody wants to do here on YouTube. But if not, no worries, it is okay. I thank you for your time regardless. Twitter, Facebook information down below. You can join me there, talk about this, give me an explanation to bloat, and other stuff there, or down in the comment section. Please feel free to fill me in on that, and obviously your thoughts on the movie and so forth. So with that, I'll catch you in the next review, horror fans.